A lifetime of feeling stuck. I think I mentioned on the last video, for a large part of my life, adult and as a teenager and a younger child growing up, feeling stuck wasn't just something I was living with, it was part of my identity. If you were to ask me the question, who are you? Who is John? I would say, in a roundabout way, perhaps with more words, John is stuck. How does John feel? John feels stuck. John feels trapped. I shan't go into the circumstances behind that now, but suffice to say, when you find yourself in a circumstance that seems compellingly permanent, without too much promise of change, then it's understandable that you would form a worldview that says, well, this is normal. And many of us form a worldview that says this is normal in our early years. Then we just go ahead through our lives repeating the experience in different ways, which only serve to validate the worldview we have. And I'm not saying that, again, just to make it clear, I'm not saying that to make you feel bad. If you've been through one abusive relationship to another, or you've been through financial hardship to financial hardship to financial hardship, or illness to illness to illness, or setback to setback, then it's not your fault. And there's no blame here. And you may not realise it, but if your worldview says life is hard, people are horrible, I'm not good enough, love is hard to find, money is hard to find, good people are hard to find, the world is falling apart, anything like that, then how can you expect to see anything different? Realistically, I say that with love. I say that because I've been through that process. So I know how it feels to feel stuck, to be continuously placing myself in situations and circumstances where life seems only to confirm that belief. Relationships, jobs, financial situations, similar decisions. And then, because you believe that's your worldview, the best thing you can do is cope. And there are many people out there who are experts at helping us cope. Coping is a poor substitute for overcoming. To overcome an unhelpful worldview, you have to change your worldview. And you might say, well, how do I do that? Well, the how is a secondary concern. At this point, you just want to know that it's possible, surely. To know that it's possible opens up a doorway of possibility inside of you that says, maybe the way that I see things now isn't fixed. And it may appear to be real and true, and has been for many years or months or even weeks. But just to entertain the possibility that something might not be fixed in the way that you think it is, that can make a significant amount of difference. And I think all too often, we're prone to rushing into the how. How do I change my life? How do I earn more money? How do I find someone who loves me and appreciates me? How do I learn how to love and appreciate myself? We rush into the how, but we don't really believe it's possible. So effort is wasted. Well, in truth, it's not really wasted. It's expended without significant return. But when we embark upon the same processes, knowing that it's a possibility, or at least believing it's a possibility, then we have to do considerably less to get the same result. And I've always been a favour of in favour of the path of least resistance, and partly because in my younger years I was quite lazy. You know, when you spend all your time feeling stuck, you don't have a huge amount of energy to be able to do anything else. So I just found a way to be more resourceful with my time. But in recent years, I've also found that the path of least resistance just means looking at the stages by which change unfolds. And we don't start with the how, we start with the what. You know, what do I want? Why do I want it? Why is it important to me? Where am I starting from? You know, it's probably not going to be conveyed very well on camera, but this is reasonably steep. It's hard to maintain composure. So I've stopped halfway up. The thing is, I can see the slope before I embark upon it. So it hasn't come as a surprise to me, and I think that's the thing, is that we start with the how question. How can I get more, or less, or better, or avoid worse? We're not really aware of the journey or the process, and sometimes that's helpful because someone says, well, if you change your worldview to one that doesn't feel so bad, you might have to accept in this moment you aren't happy with the way that things are. And not to place judgment on yourself for that, but just to accept it's just how it is. That's why the first step is often the hardest, because it forces us to be honest with ourselves or with the people who are attempting to support us along the way. That's one of the first questions I'll ask anyone when I work with them is, where are you now? What are you working with? Not because I want to give it a label and say, okay, well, you're broken, let's fix you. Or you're depressed, let's make you happy. Just, okay, that's the starting location. But it's not the end point. But where many of us tend to lose our way is that we don't really know what the starting location is. We say, I just want to feel less anxious. I want to feel less stressed. I want to feel less unhappy. But we're moving forwards with unhappiness in mind. So life can only give us more of the same. Life can only give us more of the same because, as the saying goes, you may not know about it. You may. I'll just remind you. We get what we focus on. And if we focus on anxiety, whether it's an absence or a presence, anxiety is still the subject of focus. If we focus on pain, then pain is what we experience. And I'm not asking anyone to be ignorant and saying, oh, I'm not in pain. And if your arm's falling off, go to hospital. This isn't about being ignorant or being in denial. It's to recognize in this moment, I'm experiencing pain. That's it. End of story. It doesn't have to mean anything, and often we suffer the most because we say, I'm anxious, I am depressed, I am stressed, I am in pain because he did this, or she did this, or they did that, or the world did this, and I can't do anything about it. And that means I can't change. That means I'm a victim. That means I can only just learn to cope. And as I said before, of course it will seem that way but it's not absolutely true. It can change. Consider, if you perceive the world as a dangerous place, you can only react accordingly. If you perceive there to be danger in the world, but it's not the entirety of the truth of how the world is, do you think you'd be acting differently? I would say so. If you apply the same logic in other areas, relationships, money, health, then it just breaks the barrier down slightly. Things look slightly less fixed than they would have been previously. So that's why it's important to begin knowing where you are. If you drive a car and you use a sat-nav, first thing the sat-nav will do, figure out where you're starting from. And then it will chart the course to your destination based on that. So it helps to start with the end in mind. It helps to start with awareness of where you want to get to. But it also helps to have reference to where you're starting from. So both have value. But wherever you start from is not where you're going to end up. So it's easier to focus on when you know that. It's easier to accept the reality of the moment, knowing that it will change at some point, and it will. So that's all for today. I hope that helps. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, leave a comment, do the subscribe thing if it makes sense. If not, no worries. I'll catch you on the next one.